Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm discussing the Xbox Developer Direct 2024 showcase, and whether or not this is the big year fans have been waiting for since the start of this console generation, or if it even needs to be. It's no secret that Microsoft has lagged behind Sony and Nintendo in the gaming exclusives department for quite some time. Xbox fans know it, PlayStation fans never let anyone forget it, and Switch fans are content to sit on the sidelines while they enjoy banger after banger. All memeing aside, even the big man at Xbox, Phil Spencer, has been candid on their struggles with exclusives, and since the very first leaks and rumors began to swirl about this year's Developer Direct, there was non-stop speculation about how their slate of releases this year might shape up. I was working when the showcase dropped, and while I did watch it, I couldn't fully absorb all the new info being thrown our way. So, on Friday, I sat down on my PC to watch it again, and after really getting a feel for what was shown off, 2024 is shaping up to be quite a year for the Xbox ecosystem. The show kicked off with what's been one of the most anticipated Xbox titles for almost 3 years, Avowed. This open-world fantasy RPG has been at the top of many players' lists, including my own, when it comes to games they're excited to get their hands on. And I was much more impressed with what was shown this time around after a mixed reception to the gameplay trailer that aired during last year's summer Xbox event. For starters, the visuals look absolutely fantastic. Obsidian spent plenty of time showcasing different environments, which are incredibly varied and frankly breathtaking in their own unique ways. After watching this year's trailer again, I couldn't shake the feeling that the footage looked a bit different from what we saw last summer, so I went back to rewatch that trailer and see if I was simply imagining things. After comparing the two, it does seem like Obsidian tweaked the graphics and art style ever so slightly, which is to be expected as the game inches closer to release, but the main difference I spotted was in presentation. How they showed off their work last year just didn't click with me, or a lot of others, but this time around they absolutely nailed it, and I'm so glad to see that. We also saw several chunks of gameplay, specifically when it comes to combat and RPG elements. To be honest, I wasn't super impressed with what was shown regarding player choice. Obsidian has earned itself a reputation for crafting incredibly intricate games, with branching decisions that affect the world in many different ways, but this skill in storytelling and choice could have been presented better here. When it comes to combat, the ways in which players will engage with enemies, melee, ranged, and spellcasting, all look solid. While the melee mechanics didn't blow me away, I'm confident Obsidian will refine them into a perfectly respectable playstyle by the time Avowed launches. What did blow me away, however, was the spellcasting. You can still interact with magic using hand motions, but the main focus of casting in combat seems to be tied to wands. Yes, you heard that right. This was certainly not something I expected to see. All the magic in last year's trailer appeared to follow more traditional casting methods, so adding wands into the sandbox was an unexpected surprise, but a welcome one. And Harry Potter fans can rejoice at another chance to live out their wizarding dreams after Hogwarts Legacy. The ability to combine your weapons, wands, and spells to create devastating combos also diversifies combat even further, and should allow players to either focus their playstyle in a specific direction, or incorporate different aspects into their toolkit, should they choose to go the everyman route. This might surprise folks, but perhaps what caught my eye the most out of everything we saw from Avowed was its loadout system. You may think I'm overblowing things here, but the ability to quickly swap between different gear in the heat of combat without digging through menus, favorites, and other lists will be a game changer for me, and is a quality of life inclusion that I couldn't be more hyped to try out. Call me crazy, but I'm in love with this system, and I can't wait for the more streamlined combat experience it's going to provide. Finally, and I can't stress this enough, the game's key art is absolutely incredible. It has to be one of the coolest, prettiest, most unique styles I've seen in recent memory. Bottom line, it's sick. And if Xbox doesn't turn it into a dynamic background ASAP, that will be a huge missed opportunity for free and easy marketing. After taking a look at Avowed, we switched gears to Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2. Admittedly, I still have to play the first Hellblade before the sequel comes out, and the itch to start Senua's journey only got stronger after the showcase. As we've seen and heard plenty of times before, the game's graphics look top-notch, and the audio sounds fantastic. Ninja Theory took a deep dive into how their use of binaural audio has greatly expanded since the first installment, and they fully expect its widespread usage in the sequel to further immerse players in this dark and foreboding world. The studio's authentic focus on psychosis is also commendable. Input from experts and even individuals who have suffered from the condition has been used to make the experience more real, and you can tell even from the trailers that this investment has paid off. One thing that really stuck out was the studio's discussions around combat. They've sought to expand on that aspect greatly in the sequel, and Hellblade 2's battles were described as brutal, making players feel as if they barely escape with their life after each encounter. This should enhance immersion even further, and help boost the game up in terms of appeal and playability for a wider audience. We've seen quite a bit of this game over the years, but the showcase still managed to sprinkle a few more enticing details into the mix, along with one key piece of info everyone has been patiently waiting for: a release date. Hellblade 2 will hit digital shelves on May 21st, available on Game Pass, as expected, and for full price purchase at $50, a full $20 below the standard price for AAA releases in 2024. The game has been priced this way in large part due to its shorter length, taking less than 10 hours to complete, similar to its predecessor. And while some might see this as a negative, I couldn't disagree more. I'm firmly of the mindset that there are way too many bloated games in the current market, and I relish the chance to play a streamlined experience that won't demand weeks of my life to fully complete. If a studio can deliver high quality in a small package, I'm all for it, and thanks to their track record, Ninja Theory fits that bill perfectly. The studio has been upfront about their vision for Hellblade 2 from the start, and I for one applaud them for not only sticking to that plan, but also working with Xbox to price the game appropriately. A trend I hope, but don't expect to see carried forward across the wider gaming industry. There was a surprise that dropped during the showcase, but not the one most people were expecting. Instead of a shadow drop like last year's Hi-Fi Rush, we got an unexpected visit from Square Enix, and their upcoming title Visions of Mana. I gotta be honest with you, this game just isn't my cup of tea. The art style looks fantastic, the world seems fun to explore, combat looks enjoyable, but it's not a game for me, and I can't see myself checking it out. That being said, it is nice to see Microsoft flexing their third-party partnerships with companies like Square Enix. As the Mana series' first mainline release in more than 15 years, it's great to see Xbox incorporate outside games like this into their repertoire, even if it's not an exclusive. Next, we got a closer look at Ara History Untold, the upcoming 4X-esque strategy title developed by Oxide Games. I'm a big strategy fan, but I'll admit, 4X isn't usually my go-to subgenre, and I've been a little skeptical on whether or not Ara might grab and hold my attention. But, after what was shown during the showcase, my curiosity has definitely been piqued. Oxide has consistently stressed their focus on blending various elements of strategy in Ara, and this seems to be coming together quite nicely. Aspects of 4X management, real-time-ish combat, turn-based mechanics, and even some elements of strategy on a grander scale all mesh together into what seems to be a surprisingly cohesive package. Although we'll need to wait for launch to see if Oxide has truly stuck the landing. The prestige system and its flexible victory conditions are also a great inclusion, and even as someone who usually takes a more direct approach when it comes to exerting my dominance over the world, I'm always happy to see the inclusion of systems that encourage more playstyles and open up the game to a wider audience with different visions on how to make their civilization the best. Speaking of civilization, there are certainly plenty of comparisons to be made there, and even the devs at Oxide spoke on how they wanted to incorporate aspects of that franchise into their work. One tweak to that pre-existing formula is Ara's simultaneous turn system. Instead of each player taking time to conduct their empire management one after another, Ara's design allows everyone to oversee their actions all at once. Not only does this speed up game flow, you won't be sitting around waiting for your opponents to make their own moves, but it also adds a layer of complexity, where you need to be on your toes and anticipate what others might do in real time, instead of waiting to see how things play out and then reacting to them. This system will be very interesting in multiplayer campaigns. Facing off against AI opponents in real time is one thing, but doing so against other living, breathing players is another, and I can't wait to see how this system plays out when it comes to the highest levels of competition. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, this year's showcase gave us our first look at a title that's been in the making for quite some time, and has generated just a little bit of hype along the way: Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Despite the game's title being discovered before the event, this was our first opportunity to get a glimpse of how it will actually look and play. Right from the start, the game's trailer perfectly captured the essence of Indiana Jones. Not only the character, but the franchise itself, and I was extremely impressed with how well this carried over from film to gaming. Another surprising win is the inclusion of Harrison Ford's likeness as the model for Indy. Ford and Jones are inseparable, and bringing that same face fans have known and loved for over 40 years to gaming is a huge win. It was almost off-putting to see Ford presented in a digital medium, but after getting over the initial surprise, he felt right at home, and Troy Baker's voice acting didn't miss a beat either. I was greatly impressed with how well his voice fits the character, and he wears Indy's shoes just as well as any of his other unforgettable roles over the years. Perhaps the biggest, and pretty much only point of contention, is the game's blend of first and third person perspectives. In a genre that's dominated by titles using that out-of-body presentation, designing Indy around an alternative perspective was a bold strategy, but the right one, and one that will pay off greatly for machine games. It may take some getting used to, but the immersion will be practically unrivaled, and deviating from the typical formula is yet another way the game sets itself apart from contemporaries. Not that it needed the help, but an extra buff to uniqueness is a good thing, and with this studio's pedigree in developing immersive first-person experiences, it was unquestionably the right call. And for those purists out there, you'll still get to see Indy in third person during traversal and cutscenes. The Great Circle has been described as an exciting blend of puzzles, adventure, action, and set pieces. A pretty perfect match for machine games to develop. There will be a ton of optional secrets to uncover, mysteries to solve, and nooks to explore, all while enjoying the classic feel of Indy's humor and his signature whip. The implementation of this iconic tool might be what I'm most excited to try out, and just like in the movies, you can use it in combat, stealth, exploration, and more, really getting you into Indy's shoes. I'm not a diehard Indiana Jones fan by any means. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy the movies, even though they've never really been my thing, but I gotta admit, I am really pumped to experience this IP in video game form. We also got a long suspected confirmation that the game is, indeed, an Xbox exclusive, something that had been up in the air prior to the showcase. This is unquestionably a huge win for Microsoft, who's been lacking that big mainstream appeal crossover in their arsenal like Sony has enjoyed with Marvel over the last several years, and I'm truly excited to see where this adventure takes us. I just gotta brush up on my Indy lore first. A few days before the 2024 showcase aired, IGN tweeted out that Xbox finally has some first-party games coming this year, and was promptly flamed for this take. Which, to be fair, was mostly deserved, but also reminded people of the general lack of competition that's continued to plague Xbox when it comes to first-party releases during this console generation. Don't get me wrong, Xbox has maintained a decent output of first-party titles over the last few years. Microsoft Flight Simulator, Psychonauts 2, Age of Empires 4, Forza Horizon 5, and Halo Infinite all came out in 2021. A great year of releases by any metric, but also weighed down by the Xbox Series' middling launch window and the baggage that came along with Infinite's shaky first year or so. Grounded and Pentiment both released in 2022, or in the case of Grounded, released into 1.0, making that a great year for Obsidian, but lacking in the context of any other first-party drops. Last year, Xbox delivered two critically acclaimed hits with Hi-Fi Rush and Forza Motorsport, along with Minecraft Legends, which received a mixed reception but was generally seen as a solid title overall. We won't talk about Redfall, but whether you enjoyed it or not, Starfield was a smash hit by every metric other than reviews, accumulating a veritable shitload of sales and downloads on Game Pass. So, it's clear Xbox had a few great releases last year, and IGN deserved to get memed on a bit for their take. But, if we're being totally honest, Xbox has continued to lag behind the PS5 and Switch this console lifecycle. Enter 2024. A year with 4 already confirmed large-scale exclusive releases, and perhaps the most mainstream-adjacent Xbox game of this generation with Indiana Jones. Is it finally the year Xbox fans have been waiting for? That question has been asked countless times for what seems like forever, since the 360 era ended and the supremacy of Sony and Nintendo began. I think it's more than fair to ask, particularly for Xbox owners whose consoles serve as the main avenue by which they play their games. But the question has become more complex than ever in 2024. And there really is no easy answer. With rumors swirling about previous Xbox exclusives like Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves making their way to Sony and Nintendo consoles, many Xbox fans have been left wondering just how much exclusives even mean to Microsoft, timed or otherwise. Despite the many questions still to be answered on that front, including whether the rumors are even true, this year's Developer Direct did deliver when it comes to providing a lineup of high-profile, high-appeal exclusives, which is something the console needs if Microsoft wants to keep Game Pass, their main focus and driver of revenue, successful. But, as time has gone on and Microsoft's strategy when it comes to Xbox has shifted, I think it's time to stop asking, is this Xbox's year, and instead ask, does this year, or any year, need to be the year for Xbox? The company's approach to gaming has clearly shifted with content distribution via Game Pass. And if the rumors about exclusives making their way to other platforms is true, that will be a clearer sign than ever of this pivot. I've been a Game Pass subscriber for years now, and even with price increases, the value available is still nigh unbeatable across the entire gaming market. The subscription is a great addition to any gamer's arsenal, but despite all of its benefits, the system can't replace having high-quality, unforgettable, must-play experiences tied to your hardware, something both Sony and Nintendo capitalize on with resounding success year after year, despite the constantly increasing price of development associated with those titles. Despite that ringing true, Xbox seems to be aiming for a middle ground, a place where exclusives do still exist, and, let's be clear, there's no world in which they stop existing ever, while also opening the door to more things like timed exclusivity for specific titles. In an industry that continues to struggle with achieving profitability, perhaps this is the best path forward. And recent comments from Ubisoft execs on the future of subscription services and game ownership, while controversial, largely align with where the industry as a whole is headed, for better or for worse. I have no horse in this race, and there's almost nothing I hate more in all of gaming than the pointless bitching that stems from stupid console war fanboys. I own every system: PC, PS5, Switch, and Xbox. I play games on all of them, and I enjoy doing so. But even as someone who's entirely platform agnostic, it would be remiss not to make note of just how important it is for companies to maintain a library of exclusives. Not every game, mind you, but enough to draw players in and give them a reason to pick up their piece of hardware over an alternative. Because while I'm lucky enough to own every major gaming platform, not everyone is. Competition is a good thing in any industry, and gaming is no different. My biggest takeaway from the 2024 Developer Direct is that with games like Avowed, Hellblade 2, Aura, and Indiana Jones, Xbox continues to throw their hat in the ring as a competitor, giving players more reasons than ever to play on their systems in the form of can't-miss titles. Whether some of these games end up on other systems in the future is a question yet to be answered, but it's about time to stop asking, is this Xbox's year? And instead start asking, what is Xbox bringing to the table this year and every year after? I'm happy to see Microsoft come out swinging to kick off 2024, and I really hope that after the positive reception to this year's event, they go ahead and officially make these January showcases into a yearly staple for the company's marketing strategy. Starting the year by checking out some new games is never a bad thing, and I'm very excited to see how things pan out for Xbox in 2024. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more gaming content, and let me know your thoughts on the showcase and how this year is shaping up for Xbox in the comments below. You're a real one and I appreciate you. Catch you later, homies.